In this video, I'll try to explain aggregation in SailPoint IIQ. Basically, aggregation is a process through which a data from a configured application, that is target, is read into IIQ. So we have account aggregation and account group aggregation. So basically, account aggregation is the process for aggregating data, like updating or creating account object, that is link. And group aggregation is a process for aggregating, that is creating or updating account group objects connected to identities. So let's see what is account aggregation. As I mentioned, account aggregation is a process through which the data, account data from target application, is read into IdentityIQ and is stored in link object, which is connected to identity. So the process here, you can see here, we have a target. Let's say it's AD. So basically how it happens is, let's say you run the aggregation. It will be first there is a series of process. I will explain you how data is pulled into IAQ actor. So on high level, IAQ will read the data. Then if it's already existed, it will update with the existing link and it will tag it to the identity. Otherwise, a new link will be created. So basically, all the data which you see on IAQ, right? Those are all link basically, AD link. You'll have AD, LDAP, or other application link you will have. So we call it as an account object. So target, you run the aggregation. IAQ pull the data, then it will store it in a link specifically. Then it will tag it to identity. So that's why the process goes like reading data, then creating or updating link, then tagging links to identity. So for triggering aggregation and all, you need to create a task definition and all. So for that, you need to go to setup, then click on task. Then you can go for existing template or existing or the custom task which you have created, or you can go to new task and create aggregation task. You will be having two tasks, that is account aggregation and account group aggregation. So account aggregation is for aggregating accounts, and account group is for aggregating group from the target. So I will go through some options, arguments which you have under aggregation. I'll go through all the attributes here. So first and foremost, it's an required one. You need to select required application for scanning. So what are the account or what application account you need to scan? So basically aggregate. So first option will be application. Then you have optional select rule. You can go for creation rule. It's an optional one. So if you want to trigger some creation rule, you can go for creation rule. It is a task. Otherwise, you can specify it in the application as well. Then you have refresh assigned and detected roles. So scans for newly assigned or detected roles and records them as an entitlement on identity cubes. Then check for active policies. So it scans for policy violation and reflects them on identity cubes. And you have another option called create only create links if they can be correlated to existing identity. So let's say if you are aggregating some application, and that whenever you are aggregating, that identity is not present in IAQ, and if you want to create it or not, means using this option, right? You can use those things. If accounts need to be created, you need to uncheck this. Otherwise, you can check this so that no new account will be created. Orphan accounts means you'll be considered as an orphan account, right? Let's say you are aggregating some application and the account is not present in IAQ, with authority source or any other application. So IAQ will create orphan account, or IAQ usually will create an account and it will be considered as an orphan account. So if you don't want to if you don't want this to happen, you can check this box. Then we have a refresh identity risk score and all. So again, it calculates the updated risk score and information for identity. Again, if you have means again, these things are available in refresh task as well. So again, if you want, you can go for these things. And maintain identity history. If you want to maintain identity history, again, you can go for this. So these options specifically like refresh assigned and detected roles, check policies, refresh identity score, history, and all are available in refresh identity task as well. Then we have enable delta aggregation. So specifically like this one and this one, delta aggregation are like a frequently used option. So let's say if you want to aggregate only changed accounts, means after first aggregation. Specifically, if you want to go with a delta aggregation, right? First, you need to have a full aggregation. Like first run should be full aggregation. After that, you can go for delta aggregation, and also the application should support delta aggregation. Like Active Directory will support delta aggregation. Again, JDBC also supports. Again, you need to have some other configuration for delta aggregation. So usually in organization for AD we will have a delta aggregation. So whenever there is a change happens on target, then only IAQ will pull changed identities after first run. Then detect deleted is also will be used. Like let's say if account is deleted from target, and if you want to reflect that in IAQ, you can go for this. Like it will delete identity or object from IAQ as well. And maximum delete, let's say if you want to restrict to some amount, you can use maximum delete accounts as well. Let's say some 25 plus accounts are deleted in target, and if you don't want to reflect those many accounts deletion in IAQ, you can restrict to 10, 15 like that. Again, it's up to you. Then refresh assigned scopes. So for refreshing assigned scope, you can go for it. Then refresh continuous certification. Again, this also like available in identity refresh and all. Then for continuous certification, like updates continuous certification, like adding removing identities or entitlements based on aggregated data. Promote manage attribute. So during aggregation, again you can select this. Like usually we select promote managed attribute during aggregation itself. Let's say if you have configured any attribute as a if you added any attribute as managed attribute, right? During aggregation, those attribute will be promoted as a managed attribute and entitlement. So during application configuration, let's say if you are configuring Active Directory application, member of will be considered as a managed attribute, right? Like it is considered as a group. So you can configure managed attribute and entitlement for that specific attribute. During aggregation, it will be promoted as managed attribute, so that user can request it. And if you have configured entitlement, or if you added entitlement also, right? So it will be considered in certification as well. Disable auto creation of application. Again, this can be configured like if you are having multiplex application. So application won't be created during aggregation. Then enable partitioning. This also can be configured. Like if you want to partition your task, like if you want to run the task in multiple servers and multiple threads, you can go for partitioning. Let's say if you have one server, and if you have added multiple threads in the request objects and all, so you can go for partitioning, so that like whenever you trigger aggregation, the aggregation will be split into multiple threads, and all the threads will execute parallelly. So I have explained this thing in detail in my previous video. You can check in my previous video. So then like object partitions, like how many objects need to be partitioned, you can configure that. Then sequential execution. So you can add multiple application in the first field, so that like all the application will be executed or triggered sequentially. Actions to include. So you'll have like once task is executed, right, you will get the summary, like how many accounts got aggregated, scanned, like app scanned, whether it got created, correlated, and also you can specify the actions to include in the task. Apart from that, you have some non UI arguments, like if you want to specify or if you want to add a specific resource object, you can add it from a debug page. Then synchronizing attributes. Also, like if you want to synchronize attribute with target, you can have it's a boolean value. Then again, you have update multiplex schemas, full promotions. You can add traces as well. There are again a number of other arguments which you can add from debug page. So these are the attributes which we configure frequently. As I mentioned, like what are the application need to be scanned. Then like if you want to create a link or account, you can go for it. Then enable delta aggregation if your connector supports it. Then detect deleted accounts, like if you want to delete accounts which got deleted from target, you can go for this as well. So on high level, you can see here, like when you aggregate target, IAQ will pull the accounts details, and it will create a link or update the link and tag it to the identity. This is about account aggregation. Again, I will explain the process as well, like how the aggregation happens in detail. So let's see the aggregation process in detail. So whenever you specify a set of application within the aggregation task, right? So it will go for some series of steps, and I will show you how it happens. So first, it will get a single application, like get application object and appropriate connector. Then get resource objects to aggregate. Then aggregate each individual resource object. Then mark as updated. Then again detect deleted accounts and remove those links, and mark a domain scope. So here you can see this happens for each application. Like as I mentioned here, we will be specifying the list of applications to scan. So it will get a first application here. Then this will go for a resource object. So it will go for means it will get the list of resource object. So this is like you have a target application AD. Okay, you will have LDAP. Let's say you have specified like this in aggregation task. So this is the aggregation task you have specified, and each will have set of resource object. Okay, here this is single resource object. Again, this will have resource object. So the first step will be picking first application. Then the next step will be get resource object to the aggregate. Like this is second step. This will be the first step, and this is second step. Third step is get single resource object, then aggregate it. So this will be the third step. Okay, so then this will happen for each account. So this process, like for each account, we will have some set of operations, again step steps, and if it is there, mark as updated. If not, delete. So in the application specifically, when you go to identity warehouse, under account tab, right, you will see last refresh. So that's what here it says, like last refresh, like whether account got aggregated or not, when it got last updated and all, you can see here. So like once for each resource object, the update or last refresh is updated. Then if account is not present, the account will be deleted from the IAQ. Like if you have selected deleted account option, then the next step means once everything is done for each resource object here, right? So all the things are done, then it will go to next LDAP or next application, then the same process. And once everything is done, process will be executed. So specifically, like, or basically, what is resource object? So resource object is like when you aggregate the account, right? Like connector manipulates and translate the received data into a standard format. Basically, resource object is a standard format for IAQ to understand, right? Like let's say you have a multiple applications, and each has its own structure, like active directories, like directory structure, and database is again row, column based and all. So what IAQ will do is it will convert and like manipulate and translate it to a standard format. That format is resource object. And again, some connector supports modifying of a received data before converting into resource object. So for that, you'll be having a connector rules. So we have a build map rule, transform rule, pre-iterate rule, and post-iterate rule. So which can help you to modify before converting into resource object. So what happens is, let's say you have AD or again some flat files, right? So if you want, means the process here is like it will be converted to resource object, okay, which can be stored into IIQ. So here, if you want to modify, so you can modify here using build map, transfer, pre-iterate, and post-iterate rule before converting it to object. So what happens here is like you will get a map, and which will be converted to resource object. But in case of ED or other application, you will get directly resource object. You might not be able to modify. But once you get a resource object, right, you can modify that. Like resource object can also be modified using aggregation rule. You have a customization rule. Using customization rule, you can modify a resource object, and it can be stored in IAQ as account or link. So this is the flow. You get the application. So IAQ will aggregate it, and it using its own logics and all, it will translate and manipulate into our standard format, that is resource object. So you will get IAQ will get resource object, and it will store as a link and tag to the identity object basically. So connector rules, like you can manipulate the received data, right? Like you have a build map rule for delimited file and JDBC. So if you want to convert, let's say you will be having column and rows, right? So if you want to modify any data here, so if you want to concatenate some set of attributes, or if you want to consider, like let's say you got a value here as admin, and you want to modify it, modify the group value, and also you can use build map rule, and you can go for it. And where resource object can be utilized, right? In the same case, let's say you got for a user active and some user are like inactive, right? And within IAQ, you have IAQ. This is an attribute, and if you want to set this, you can use a resource object for any target or any connectors. So why we need this is like in identity warehouse account option, you will see red and green color, like this is inactive, green is active. So this can be set using identity like IAQ disabled. So if means during each aggregation account, means each for each resource object, you can check whether object is active or inactive. If it is active, you can set IAQ disabled as false, and it will have a green color. And if you set it as true, and it will be considered as inactive account, and you'll see a red color on IAQ identity warehouse page. And again, you can use customization rule for lot of things, like if you want to set some attribute, if you want to remove some objects, if you want to ignore some objects, you can go for a customization rule. So all the connectors will have a customization rule, but few will have a connectors rule like build map, transfer, pre-iterate, and post-iterate rules. So post-iterate and pre-iterate, like, so if you want to store or if you want to archive a file, right, you can use a post-iterate rule. And if you want to pre-check like whether file present in specified path or not, you can use pre-iterate rule. Then we have individual account aggregation process. So we have two phases, like resource object link driven and identity driven. So physically what happens here is like as I mentioned, we'll get a resource object, right? So resource object will be converted to a link here, then stored to or tagged to identity. So here first phase is resource object link driven, then link to identity driven, like creating or tagging a link to identity. So we have two phases here. So first phase, resource object link driven, right? So the first step in this process is like get a resource object. So whatever we got here, means what I am showing now is what happens here for each resource object. So we got a single resource object now, then find link matching that resource object, correlate link to an identity, then update link with attribute data from resource object, then promote link attribute to queryable account attributes. So we have 4-5 steps here. First we got the resource object, right? Then find link matching resource object. Basically like check whether the link, the aggregated link present in IAQ or not. Then if it is present, correlate with it. Then update a link with attributes data from a resource object. So like what happens is like you will have let's say you got a resource object and you have a link object in IAQ, then identity, right? Tagging it to identity. So you got a resource object during aggregation, then all the attributes will be updated to the link. Then again next step we'll see what happens, but all these things happen, or this phase is regarding resource object and link, right? So what happens during finding and correlation, we'll see. Let's say the update is for renaming, right? So in that case, again there are certain steps also involved here. So let's say if like only few applications supports renaming and all in Delta aggregation. If Delta aggregation is there, sometimes renaming will be ignored. Okay, so account renaming can be effectively achieved through full aggregation with check deleted set to true. A new link with a new like a native identity value will be created, and a old link will be deleted. Like it will delete the old link and create a new link and tag it to the identity. Means usually you will have a native identity, and that's how the like check can happen. Like you have UUI ID also. So how means that's how IAQ will check whether identity present or not, and if not, it will create new identity. And in case of renaming, again the old link will be deleted and new link is created, and then it is tagged to identity. Then comes the correlation process. Like usually it is correlating the link itself. Like if a link previously associated to an identity and new and old identities are different, remove the link from the old identity. That's how it happens. Like correlation, you will get the resource object and it will check all the values are matching or not. If not, it will recorrelate and tag it to the identity. And there is a certain process for recorrelation as well. So you can use a correlation rule specified in app. Means you can specify the correlation rule in app as well as task. And if you specify it in task, it will happen for all the application within that task. And you can have a correlation rule in specific application as well. Let's say you have a correlation, AD correlation rule, LDAP correlation rule. So you can configure it in application itself during onboarding process. So the first priority goes to correlation rule specified in app, then specified in task if you have specified. Then if you have not specified in both, then it will check whether you have configured it in UI through correlation config. Like you can specify like correlate with or correlate based on employee number from target application and employee number from IAQ. So you need to have two attributes like a linking. So specifically what happens here is like let's say from target, example AD, so basically what happens, like you have a target application called AD, right? And you will be having employee number. And what is IAQ one? IAQ is like, let's say it's so what you are saying is correlate based on AD employee number with IAQ employee number. This is what you are saying. So that it will IAQ will check whether employee number is matching or not. If it is matching, it will correlate. And that is like using correlation config through UI. And the same thing can be done through a correlation rule which can be configured in application. Again, if no identity was found in a correlation process, it will go for new identity creation. New link will be created, and again in the next phase, it will tag it to the identity. And there is a process for optimization as well. If optimized aggregation has been requested, like determine whether account can be optimized. So like this means like check whether any attributes on a resource object differ from a retrieved link object. If no changes found, skip the rest of the aggregation for that retrieved resource object. And like again, optimized aggregation is default in latest versions. And if you want to ignore, or if you want to turn off this process, right, you can use a no optimized regression process or no optimize regression in the aggregation task itself. So the next phase will be identity driven. So you got a link now. So you have like from first phase, resource object is converted to a link, and all the links like attributes got promoted, like whatever you have configured in identity mapping, right? All the things will be like account mapping, right? All the things will be promoted. Like you have account mapping and identity mapping. So the next phase will have identity mapping. In the first phase, it is like account mapping. So whatever the object you got during aggregation, it is either it got correlated or a new link will be created here. So now you have a link object. So now how it is tagged to a new existing identity or a new account is created. So basically, so what happens here is like you can see you got the resource object, then find the matching one. If there is no matching, a new account will be created, or it will correlate with existing link, right? That's what it happened here. Like you have a link now. So now how it is added to the identity, we'll see. So then the first step will be run optional pre-refresh rule. Then mark identity as correlated and non-correlated. On each identity, you will see whether account is correlated or not, based on whether identity has authority application or not. Then promote link attribute to identity attribute. So in first phase, you saw that like from resource object to like promoting link attributes, right? Here you have seen promoting link attribute to a queryable accounts attribute. Here it's like promoting link attribute to identity attribute. Then update outstanding provisioning request. Let's say on first day you have requested for some user, and it is like waiting for next aggregation, right? It's like you have configured optimistic provisioning and all. So during optimistic provisioning, like if you have configured optimistic provisioning as false, right, it will wait for next aggregation. Until next aggregation happens, the identity request will be in queued state. So once aggregation is done, it will process the identity request. So that's what that provisioning request says. Then promote a searchable extended attributes, then run refresh rule and mark identity as updated. So this you have seen in the main aggregation steps. So basically run refresh rule. If you have configured any refresh rule, that will be executed, otherwise it will be ignored. And again, if you have a logical application and all, right, again there are certain steps involved. But let's say for normal applications, pre-refresh rule will check if it is there, it will execute that one. Otherwise, it will just mark as correlated or uncorrelated accounts. So uncorrelated in the sense like if user is not having, or if that link or identity is not having authority application, right, it will be considered as not correlated account. And like this allows IAQ to keep track of which identity were created to support uncorrelated accounts on non-authority application, and which were created based on aggregation of an authority field. Then promote link attributes to identity attributes as directed by identity object, which whatever you have configured in identity mapping, right? That will happen. Like attribute promotion is a configurable option of an identity refresh task, but it is automatically forced on aggregation process. Again, manager correlation also will happen if required. And again, if promote managed attribute is true in this task, right? A new managed attribute is created, like whatever the attribute is set as managed attribute, right? Here a new managed attribute, specifically entitlement, will be created in the IAQ. Then we have pre-refresh rule. If a pre-refresh rule is configured, you can or IAQ will trigger pre-refresh rule. Basically, like for group aggregation and all, we will configure refresh rule, which will help you to update owners dynamically and set it as non-requestable and all. So again, there is an option called set any managed attribute as a non-requestable. You can set it through aggregation rule. Then mark identity as refreshed. Again, with these, there are other things happens, like for scoping and for policy checks and continuous certification and all. There are certain things which will happen if you have configured it in aggregation rule. And again, examine any outstanding provisioning request for identity also will happen. As I mentioned, let's say you have not set a request, means in your workflow, right? If you have not configured optimistic provisioning, each identity request will be queued for next aggregation to check whether an object is updated or not, or the requested group is provisioned or not. Then it will process the provisioning request and all. So that also happens through identity driven phase. So this is about account aggregation. Like you have high level, like get the application, get the set of resource object and aggregate each resource object. Each resource like during each resource object, you will be having two phases. One is resource object link driven, then identity and link and identity driven, like get the resource object, then find matching resource object, then update the link attributes to it, and then again update link attribute to or sync link attribute to identity attribute, promote it, and if required run the pre and post refresh rule, then set it as updated or marked. So this is all about account aggregation. So let's see group aggregation in IAQ. So it's similar to what we have seen in account aggregation. So basically in account aggregation, we are aggregating account. During group aggregation, we will be aggregating account group aggregation. So here we will be creating managed attributes specifically. So if you want to create a new aggregation task, or if you want to execute a group aggregation task, right, you need to go to setup, click on task, then you'll be having task definition, like readily available templates, or if you want to create new one, click on new task and select for account group aggregation. So these are the options available which are similar to account aggregation itself. So we have applications to scan, so you can specify a list of applications here, then enable delta aggregation. So if you want to aggregate only modified modified group after last aggregation, right, you can go for delta aggregation. For this, first you need to execute a full aggregation, then you can go for delta aggregation. Again, only few application supports delta aggregation. Then detect deleted account aggregation, select delete accounts which are present in IAQ, not present in target. And you have automatically promote a description to this local. Again, after 6 versions, right, like managed attribute descriptions are localized, and multiple description can be saved for each managed attribute. So then we have a description attribute, like if you want to specify some, you can do that. Otherwise, aggregator will pull value recorded in attribute description. Then we have a group aggregation rule. So we can use a group aggregation rule to modify some attributes. Let's say you are aggregating some groups which has inactive owners, and if you want to set it to owners manager or some default owner, right, you can use group aggregation rule. And also like if any managed attribute got changed after aggregation, that is like, let's say during first aggregation, for any managed attribute, you set it as non-requestable. Let's say aggregation happened on some 9/12/25. Okay, and after this you made it as requestable. That is, let's say 10/12/25. Okay, now the task execution. So task execution happened on 12/12/25, and usually what it will do is it will make it as non-requestable, right? It will make it as non-requestable. So if you don't want to make the modified requestable, right, you can use group aggregation refresh rule. That is, check the date when it got created and the current task execution. So it got created before a task execution, don't touch it. Otherwise make it as non-requestable. So because like for some application you need to set all the groups as non-requestable, and due to some requirement you made it as a requestable, like you can request those groups through manage user access, right? So if you want to don't touch modified manage attribute, you can use group refresh rule, and you can check this logic, like when it got created, the current task execution time, compare those things. If the task execution is like after creation of group, then you can ignore those things. So here is the high level process. Again, it is similar to account aggregation itself. Get the account application object and appropriate connector, then get a set of resource objects. Then for each resource object, aggregate the things, like get the modified details and all. Check whether it is present in IAQ. If it is not present, delete it. And this is the individual process. What happens here specifically, like match the resource object to managed attribute. Like again, it's similar to like correlating the things. Then update managed attribute or create new one. If the account object is present in IAQ, then update the attributes, or if it is not present, create the new managed attribute. Then run the group aggregation refresh rule, then save the details. So this is how group aggregation happens. Like it's similar to account aggregation, like get the list of application and get the resource object for each application specified in the task, then get individual resource object, then correlate or take required actions. So this is about group aggregation. So I try to explain both the group aggregation and account aggregation in detail, like how it happens internally and all. So what are the attributes we need to select, and how correlation happens sequentially and all. So yeah, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe our channel.